having some technical difficulties this morning, but I think we're overcoming them. But this is what's all about live. So, and let me see if I've got, yep, that's good. Yep, that's good. You're good?
Yep.
And you've got audio?
Yep.
Okay. Sweet. Okay. Guys, sorry for the delay. Good morning to everyone. My name's Jason. I'm KC5HWB. This is Ham Radio 2.0. Be sure to click the subscribe button below if you are not subscribed to this channel so you can keep up with all the foul-ups that I post up on this channel on a normal basis. So we were having some technical difficulties with the audio recording this morning, and the cameras were working fine, but the audio was not working, so we're going to get going here. Let me introduce, okay, I got a shot with all three of us now. On the far left of the screen is Ken, KD2KW.
Hello.
And in the middle of the screen is Steve, KG5VK. So if you want to, Ken, why don't you go first? Just tell us who you are. Let me just say first,
right.
This is, if no one's read the prequel or the emails that I've sent out about this time, these two gentlemen are running for North Texas Section Manager for ARRL and West Gulf Division, and the elections have started, I think, already. The ballots were sent out the other day, and you can vote online. You can vote through the mail if you're in the North Texas section of however they divide the sections up, somewhere north of Austin and south of the Red River, and then I'm not sure how far west it goes, but these are the two gentlemen running for that place, and that vote will be decided sometime at the end of this month. Do we have an exact date?
It'll be February the 20th. February the 15th or 20th, something
okay,
like
that. So about a month and a half from now. So we got plenty of time. Okay, good. Yeah. Good deal. Okay, so let me see. What I thought of something else. We're going to, this is live, very ad-lib on actually. Oh, that was it. You guys look, when you're talking, look at each other because the cameras or look at the camera in front of you, okay? So it looks right on the screen. That's the only thing. So you don't have to look at me every time. So Ken, please go ahead, sir.
Okay, well, I'm Ken Mitchell, KD2KW. I was born and reared in Madison County, Texas, just north of Huntsville on I-45, small community. I guess I got interested in ham radio when a few of us in high school were getting together, and a couple of the guys learned how they could put a microphone on the audio amplifier of a radio. There were tube radios then, and have a microphone on an amplifier, and they lived next door to each other. So they decided they would run speaker wire to the bedroom of the friend as a neighbor. And I was over at their house one day, and, well, I lived 2.5 miles out of town in the country, and first $50 I made was picking cotton one summer. So anyway, that's important later. We want to hook up with you, Ken, and that's quite a far ways for a speaker. There was a guy in town that had a radio shop, a radio and TV repair shop, and so I got to know him. He had a radio license, and so he taught me how to pull tubes, and I earned a little side money helping him that way, and I learned about radio, and so he got me to get my license. I got my novice, KN5JBE.
Mm-hmm.
Within about a year, got the conditional, which folks nowadays probably don't know a whole lot about, but it was basically a test given by radio operators, and same privileges as a general, and got K5JBE, and so I guess I went to A&M.
Strike one. No, I'm just kidding.
Graduated electrical engineering and ended up working for Bell Laboratories in New Jersey. Well, actually in Indiana at the time. Worked for them 27 years. And during that period of time, the FCC and ARRL decided we weren't going to do conditional anymore and started up the VE process. And they called back the conditionals. So here I was, I'm not sure where I was living at the time, but I wasn't able to go and take the test again. Conditionals had to go back in and take the test. That was one of the points of the conditional. The FCC could call you back any time. So that's
Okay.
why it was called conditional. So I let it lapse, and then I picked it up again after I was working, 16 hours a day and trying to figure out, well, this has got to be better somewhere else. So I ended up with KD2KW because I went and got my general was into EUF.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know, it was just a month or two later, I went for the advanced. And in the 610, I said, well, I was going to keep my calls because I intended to get the extra call. But the examiner, this was the last test that the FCC gave, by the way. The examiner said, some pretty neat calls in the pool right now. If you change your call, you might get one. And I said, okay. So I had to initial it, and I ended up with KD2KW, and that's my story now. I'm going to stick to it.
And those just happened to be your initials.
Just happened to be not my initials, but
close to it, right?
2KW, if you don't know, there was a K2KW station that was a famous DX station back in the 50s in New York. And, of course, ham radio then was what it was then. But that was nationally and world known as one of the big contest stations. So everybody wants 2KW.
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 Makes sense.
So
Okay.
anyway, that's my story, kind of how I got into ham radio.
Okay.
We lived in Spring.
North of Houston.
Before we moved up to North Texas, we moved to Oak Point in December 2015. Took me about a year to get antennas and things up, and so 2016 I started operating the station up there, and within 5 months got DXCC, WAS, a bunch of mixed, and I looked at it. I'd usually try to look every month or so, but at the end of the year I looked, and I'm at 188 confirmed now, and I think 218 worked.
Wow.
All confirmed log of the world. I do QSL if somebody sends me one, but
Sure.
that's been pretty much it. I worked the International Grid Square contest.
Yep.
I ended up number 2 in Texas.
There
I'll
you
tell
go.
you, now that is a butt and chair contest.
I hear that.
I ended up number 49 out of 44,750 participants.
Yeah.
12,700 and some odd contacts in a year.
Wow.
So
That's great.
confirmed. That's confirmed.
That's confirmed.
And
Nice. Very
around
nice.
1,000 or so grids, I think. But I was talking to Will Reaver at Belton. He says, "Well, how are you doing this contest? Are you looking for grids? But, it's a grid square contest." No, it's the thing of the numbers, and if you go and work the masses, you will pick up the grids.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so that's how we ended up doing
There you
that.
Cool.
I did get down to around number 41 a couple of months. I didn't get to work December as much, but in chair time as some of the other months. And I mentioned earlier to the group here that we had a 10-day stay in Colorado. If you're 50 miles away from your operating position, you have to report it differently, of course. I did take a radio and had some fun, but it didn't get reported as part of that activity. And of course, that means those 2 weeks were out. Somebody else was making their score, and it was a chase. I mean, you could look and see. Okay, I'll report 100 today, and somebody else may report 200.
Oh.
So
Yeah.
They would
Let's
jump
see.
over me, but then if I got my 100 in the next day, well, I'd come and catch up again. So
There
it
you
was
go.
it was
Yeah.
a lot of fun.
It was a lot of fun. Okay.
Okay.
Well, thanks, Ken. Thank you for being here as
You
well. I know that.
Thank you for having us.
I,
by
kn-
the way.
I know that you guys, neither one of you live really close. So, Steve, but you live the farthest away. So
A little bit.
Okay. Tell us, just give us your story like that, and tell us why you want to be section manager, et cetera, et cetera.
Okay, cool. Hey, thanks for the invite. I appreciate being here. Really do. And I was first licensed in 1972 when family and I lived in St. Louis, Missouri area. I went to high school with Ward Silver. Few people might know who he is. He's just as crazy as he was in high school. Trust me.
Huh.
And originally from Miami, Florida. However, my family moved around a whole bunch after I was about 5, 6 years old. We started moving from Miami. We went to Gainesville, Tallahassee. Then we started moving out of state. And I lived in or been in every state east of Colorado before I went in the Air Force. I'm retired active duty Air Force, and I served in Desert Shield and Desert Storm. And I actually was one of the first ones to retire early. I retired with 19 years of service. And I came home from Riyadh, Saudi Arabia, and retired. After retirement from the Air Force, we were in Louisiana and Bossier City, and I opened up a professional photography studio. And I did that for about 15 years, and towards the end of that career, I started also teaching at the local community college, digital photography and portrait photography and so forth and so on. And about 6 years ago, my wife called me into the kitchen in the house and said, I got something I want to throw at you. And she said, I said, okay. And she said, I want to move a little bit closer to the grandkids over in Texas. And they live in Sadler, so we started hunting for property. So about 5 years ago, we found 57 acres of land in Delta County, which is about 30 miles south of Paris, Texas. And currently rebuilding my antenna farm, and right now I basically have wires and beams sitting either on sawhorses or just a few feet above the ground. But
sounds familiar.
Shortly after moving to Paris, the Paris, Texas area, which are about 30 miles south of there, I started working at Main Trading Company. That was about a year and a half ago. And I recently, quote unquote, retired from that. And then I heard that the section manager position was going to come up, that Jay was not going to accept another term, and I did not know that Ken was running or anything else about it. And I decided to throw my name in the hat, contacted Steve Ewald at the ARRL, and I found out how to get this done, and ballots were mailed from the ARRL on the 3rd of this month. So you all should have them in your mailboxes by the middle of this coming week at the latest. So look for your ballots and vote for Ken or myself, and look us up on the internet and see what you think. My passion in ham radio is sharing with others. It's part of what I loved about my first field day was the camaraderie and so forth. And I love contesting. To the point that my wife, when she found out we had to have our long driveway, had to be assigned a street name because we're going to get more than one light meter on it. She got our driveway named Contest Lane.
Oh, wow. Hey, there you go.
So, and the reason I bring that up is a lot of my friends would say, you got to tell them, when you do something, you go all in. And I do. And why do I want to be your section manager? I want to bring some new blood, some new experiences to the plate for members in our section. And I want to work for you guys out there and gals. And I know there's 4,400 and some odd members that are current ARRL members. I want to get that number up, but I also want to work for what you all want from the ARRL. So reach out, communicate with myself or Ken, tell us what you need, and see how we react, and y'all vote accordingly. And I want to say thanks to Jason for inviting both of us here and giving us the unique opportunity to reach a wide audience Otherwise, it's kind of tough to make all the club meetings, Christmas
Yeah.
parties, because like the club meetings, a lot of places have the club meetings the same third Thursday of the
Yeah.
night at
True.
7 p.m. So unless we can clone ourselves, it's hard to attend more than, a few and get our faces and names known.
For sure.
I'm not a stranger to Texas. My wife and I lived in Abilene, Texas for over 5 years. It was our first base after coming back from overseas in West Germany. And we had great experiences there. My active duty experience there wasn't always great. I worked on pointed tail, black tail B-52s. And if y'all were ever involved in maintenance, D models were a bear to work on. But other than that, I think I'm going to turn it back to Jason.
Okay.
And let him, I think he's going to have some questions to field us,
I
maybe from you all. And drop me a line, kg5vk@arrl.net or on Facebook.
Okay.
Go ahead, Jason.
Good deal. Thank you, Steve and Ken, to both of you. Appreciate y'all being here. Also wanted to thank the Hearst Amateur Radio Club. We are back at their EOC, as we were last month when Frank and I were kind of kicking off this live stream, which we're going to be doing the first Saturday of every month for the year of 2019. Something different every month. This kind of came up at the beginning of December, about a week after we did our last live stream here. This situation came up. Steve had emailed me, and I saw some emails from Ken as well. And I'm like, man, that would be a great topic. So I appreciate you both making the drive out here and having this. So, okay, so I had put out, well, first of all, to everybody in the audience, if you want to ask questions, utilize the super chat. Type your questions in. Frank is in the background helping me watch. You can't see him right now, but he's helping me watch the channel to make sure I don't miss anything. We did get some emailed questions in here, and I'm just going to go through them one by one. And I've sent both you guys the questions yesterday, so nobody's going to get blindsided or anything. And be courteous. I shouldn't have to say this, but I will. Be courteous in the chat. If you're going to ask a derogatory question, we're not going to respond to it. So, not that I'm expecting that, except for maybe one or two people, and you know who you are. So, but no, not you, Frank. But all right. So the first question comes from Bill Finner. He's one of the members of the NetARRL Club, Northeast Tarrant Amateur Radio Club, which is the club that encompasses South Lake, Colleyville, Grapevine up here in the north part of Tarrant County, which is actually where I live. And he says, in context, he says, in a very densely populated areas in North Texas, we still noticed a few trustees, normally individuals, sitting on VHF and UHF repeater pair frequencies with no active repeaters on the same, some for over a year or more. The most used excuse is the radio's down and we are working on it. So the question is, what would you do to help this efforts and recover some of these unused frequencies, but seemingly claimed as a lifetime right of use by the trustees, even though the repeater has been offline for several months a year? So let me preface that by saying, I don't know, this is a question for me. I don't know, maybe one of you two can answer it. I don't know how much the Texas VHF FM Society is tied to or enabled by the ARRL. I know ARRL has influence over everything in amateur radio, but I don't know how strong those two groups work together, and Texas VHF FM Society is the one who does the coordination of repeater frequencies for the state of Texas. So with that in mind, be as detailed but as brief as you can, because we don't want to make the everything too long. So we'll go back to Ken, if you don't mind first. Just take it away.
Okay, Jason. Well, the FCC leaves the administration of repeater frequencies and the like to us.
Right.
So we're talking about us, and we're talking about the way we administer what privileges we have.
Mm-hmm.
And these allocations should be used efficiently and effectively. That's what we're looking for. And we've relocated that to some volunteers that have put together their organization called the Texas FM Society. This is not unlike what other states do in other areas. And sometimes it's not just an area. It could be those areas are pretty well defined by the volunteers. And so if you look, the Texas VHF FM Society has a constitution, and it's registered just like clubs and the like. And they have rules. And I know when you come to volunteers, you're going to have people that interpret the rules a little bit differently maybe, but they're still us. And so we have to work with us. And I looked at the rules, and of course it says that 3 months a repeater doesn't ka-chunk or whatever, you're liable to get it revoked.
Get it revoked.
So now, are we following that? Obviously, with this question, some aren't. And so I like to look at a problem when you look at a situation like this, just what is it that I have that I can work with? So in this case, we've got, people that are us that we need to work with. And, some examples might be given where indeed we communicate amongst ourselves that, well, this list is not moving, and I'm new on the list, and it's going to be years and this sort of thing. But we go talk to us, somebody that we've relegated to that responsibility, we find out it might be different than what we hear. And so we have to be careful and be professional about what we do, and be friendly and work as a team. And I find that in that case, pairs that may not have been used are really available.
Right.
And so we need to go find out about it in a professional and with respect to the people that we've given that responsibility. And a lot of times it works out.
Good. Okay. Thank you, Ken. Steve, go ahead.
I pretty much echo what Ken said. I think if you as a club or group or individual are trying to get a repeater pair and you cannot find a repeater pair that works for you, and there's a pair out there that hasn't been used for 6 months, a year, something like that, and you're not getting resolution with the frequency coordinator group, contact us, myself, or Woolweaver, our division director.
John Stratton.
Yeah, John Stratton, I'm sorry.
That's okay.
And, man. But
No worries.
And, we're not going to twist his arm or their arm or whatever, but, the more people that communicate the concerns, then maybe we can get some movement in a positive direction. But, like Ken said, keep it out of the trenches, stay on the high road. We can all work together. In every organization and club that I've been involved in, we always have a little bit of detraction here or there. But if we work together, it gets resolved, and it gets resolved pleasantly for everybody. But if you're having problems like that, contact one of us. Let us beat the drums and work the problem for you. If you're having an issue on anything, you're beating your head against the wall, reach out and communicate with us. I mean, I threw my number out there, my telephone number on the World Wide Web, Facebook, and everything that I could think of, and my email address, and I've had very few people contact me with any issues, and I'm kind of disappointed in that regard, because I know there's other people struggling with other issues, whether it be membership cards that the ARRL is not sending anymore. When you rejoin or renew, you're not getting a membership card to stick in your wallet or your purse. You got to go online now and print your own. So those are some of the concerns that I want to work on for our members. And Jason, I'm going to toss it back to you.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you very much to both of you. Yeah, I know that we had some comments in the chat that ARRL doesn't have any direct influence over frequency coordination, but in my opinion, ARRL has indirect influence over everything in amateur radio. So while you might not be able to strong arm someone, you can certainly provide influence. So thank you to those. Okay, the next two questions both come from Jim in the Mansfield Club, who you guys had breakfast with this morning. So take it with a grain of salt because it's from Jim. But Jim's a good dude. He's just very straightforward, which is why he and I get along so well because I'm the same way. So let's see. The first one he says, and these are centered around Tarrant County because that's where he lives and where I live as well. Tarrant County has a confusing mixture of races that masquerades as Aries when convenient. Why can't we just be straight Aries like Johnson and Ellis County and Denton County? They seem to have the perfect template. So some opinion in there, some conjecture as well, but I mean, that's okay. That's certainly worth discussing. So we'll go back to you, Ken, if you don't mind. If you don't mind Ken going, I'm just trying to keep it swapping back and forth. I'm not trying to let him go first every time, but
cool.
I'll give you one first here in a second, Steve. So go ahead, Ken.
Okay, Jason. Well, I actually have some experience in this particular area in Harris County. I was the district emergency coordinator before I moved up here. Well, a few years prior to me moving up here, I was district emergency coordinator for Harris County during Katrina and Ike, and worked those events out of a EOC that was called TransStar, if anybody's from that area knows the building. And in that building there is a common EOC for, at the time, Harris County and Houston, the city of. Houston, the city of, was Races, and Harris County was Aries. And you can imagine the cat fight. And actually there are some other service agencies that were in there as well. But Houston decided that they were going to pull out of the EOC and build their own, and they went down the road, a ways, maybe a couple of miles away, and built another building, another EOC. Allison occurred before that happened, and there was only one amateur radio operator in that big room, about the size of where we are here today. 4 different operating positions, an HF position as well, and Houston took the equipment. So,
wow.
And so we had to rebuild, and a friend of mine came to our club, and this is how I got to know him actually, made the comment that we needed to be a little more effective with Aries. And I told him at the meeting, I said, I'm not going to be one to go join a Aries net and say my call sign and no traffic. He said, well, thank you. You ought to be my training officer. So I became the training officer for at that time, and put together a training plan for the year. And we basically conducted that plan. Had a number of SETs that we developed and designed around our served agencies. So the served agencies participated in developing the SET, and that was quite inspiring and beneficial. But personally, I think that in this case, we were able to work it out by having a few hams that understood both Aries and Races, wear both hats, and they became a liaison between the Races organization that wanted to be Races and the Harris County group that wanted to be, that desired, our customer wanted us to be Aries. And so that worked out quite well. Now, all of these situations are unique. We have a unique hobby, and the technology is pervasive that we can use, but we also need to communicate. And so we find ways to do that with the tools we have. If we look at the problem and we assess it and we see that we do have tools, and then we try to find ways to use the tools we have to solve the problem. In this case, for Tarrant County and surrounding areas, I don't know that having a person or 2 or 3 that wears both Aries and Races hats will solve that problem. But the people that are local to the problem need to understand it, and they're the better ones to work it because they're in contact with their customer. So as a section manager, we are then to make it sort of grease the skids for them so that if they have an issue, then that they can come to us and we can give them ideas and concepts like I have from experience and see if that works, or if they have another idea, maybe we add to that with our experience and find the solution. So I talked to Jim a little bit about the issue, and we again need to be professional about the way we go about it. Our served agencies look for us to be, even though we say we're amateur,
Right.
we need to really have a positive attitude about what we're doing and work in it in a way that they can see that, we're honorable about what we're doing, and we go with it about our job efficiently to serve their need.
Okay. Good. Sounds good. Thank you very much, Ken. Steve, your turn.
Thank you, Jason. Well, let me start by saying that when I met Jim on the telephone 2 or 3 weeks ago, we had he asked if he could call me, and he sent me a Facebook message, and I said, of course, and he called, and we chatted for over an hour, which I'm not a telephone person, y'all. Normally, getting me to talk for over 30 minutes is usually a stretch, but get me on the air or chatting back and forth, email or whatever, I'm all in, or face to face. But he and I visited for quite a while, and I understand his frustration. I know he tried to pursue some solutions through the avenues he thought would work out, and he didn't get any help. So I'm very sympathetic to the battle he's facing. Jim seems like a guy that doesn't beat around the bush. He's pretty point blank, but he didn't come across to me as an arrogant such and such.
No.
Okay.
Mm-mm.
But
He poses his questions very well.
And as the president of MJARS, MJARS, which is amateur radio, it's an amateur radio emergency service organization.
Mm-hmm.
They're not really a typical amateur radio club where they just fund repeaters and put them up and let people use them and do a few fox hunts and things. Mm-hmm. They're a very active club in all aspects of the word activity. They get out and do things and support their members. They have tech teams and tech weekends and stuff like that. But I have to say that a lot can be done through mediation to another party.
Right.
And if you don't find a friendly mediator, keep climbing the chain of command, like we said in the military. And if you work the chain of command, at least give the person on the bottom rung the opportunity to fix the problem before you go to the next person up the chain. Mm-hmm. And that's what I would encourage any organization that's having problems, whether it be frequency coordination issues to RACES versus ARRLs or whatever. Mm-hmm. Just work the problem at your local level and then start approaching your members in the ARRL chain of command that are in this section that work for you. Mm-hmm. All of our phone numbers for the current members and section managers are right in front of QST. They're mm-hmm. right up there near the front.
Right.
So, QST is more than just a magazine for all of us. It's a vehicle towards a lot of different avenues to promote and protect our hobby. So somebody asked me not too long ago, one of the emails I did get from constituents out there that are trying to decide if they want to vote for myself or for Ken, was where are we at with the OO program? So I contacted Steve Ewald at the ARRL and asked him. He gave me a detailed answer, and I forwarded it to that person that asked that question. And right now, of course, since I brought that up, the OO program is put to bay. It's basically gone. And the ARRL is coming out with a volunteer monitoring service. And I think that's the right title of it. It's something like that. And that is under review right now, and then we're going to see more about it. There was some talk about it and discussion in not this current QST, but the one before that. So that'd be your December QST issue. If you can't find it, drop me an email, and I'll drop you the links and the exact wordage on that. I kind of got off the subject.
That's okay.
But I think I addressed the races versus Aries. Let's try to do it as diplomatic as we can. Let's not get it elevated to it's like Democrats versus Republicans, because we don't want to go there.
No.
Brothers and sisters.
For sure. That's for sure.
And Jason, I'm going to pass it back to you.
All right. Thank you to you both. Some good information being shared here. I appreciate everybody's honest opinion. So we're going to go to one of the online questions now, which two people asked basically the same question. And they say, the general theme is, do you have any ideas or any plans about getting more youth participation in ham radio in this area or just overall? Steve, if you don't mind continuing to talk, I'll let you answer that one first, since Ken's had the first answer on the rest of these. So go for it.
Okay. Thank you very much, Jason, and I appreciate you tossing it to me. Hey, youth. I think it's very important. I mean, if we don't, the same old, and this is going to be cliche, and we've all heard it, but if we don't attract youth, our hobby's going to die, because all of us old timers aren't going to live forever, and I want to leave something behind. And but I like teaching, I like sharing, and you'll find if you do a research on the 3830 reflector or anything like that, and look up my contest score entries and contest I've entered, most of the time I do multi-op, because I like the camaraderie of working together with a team and the fellowship that goes along with it. And I love to bring in youngsters. I met Cody last night at the MJARS meeting, and Cody is 10 years old, and his call sign is Kilo Golf 5 Tango Zulu X-Ray, and he actually pronounced it phonetically, just like that. I was very impressed with that youngster. And his dad is Will, KG5JIV. And one of the things I was quick to mention to Will, Cody's dad, was make sure in about 7 more years that you start really paying attention to the scholarship programs that are out there from many different organizations for youngsters. And don't overlook Yoda. Not Yoda, but Yota.
Yeah.
Youth on the Air, and participate in that. And the Rookie Roundup is another one. I'd love to have youngsters come over to my station and get to use multiple Yagis and multiple radios, whether it be mainly HF or whatever they want to do. But give me a call and let me help you all support that. If you wanted to ask me what my campaign slogan is, it's basically, it is education through a better ham radio community, having more fun for all. And along those lines, in the first web interview that Jason recently did surrounding this new section manager voting and everything right now, he recently talked to Jay Urich, and our current section manager for North Texas. And it came up that we may or may not have a Mentor Fest.
Yeah.
And I put out the word that I would really like to see that momentum continue.
Mm-hmm.
Mentor Fest this past year was really great. Really great.
Mm-hmm.
And if you look up that video, you'll see that Jay talked about that.
Mm-hmm.
The one the year before that, they did it in combination with Hamcom, and there was too many I think it was.
It was Jamboree on the Air.
There you go.
Yeah.
Joda.
Yeah, Joda.
And it didn't really work out all that great.
Mm-hmm.
Joda's another good place to attract youth. And I've participated in Joda in Louisiana more than a few times. And with mixed results, I think you need a lot of flash and a lot of show at a Joda to make Joda successful ham radio wise. If you just go out there and set up a radio in the back of your car or on the tailgate of your pickup, you're not going to have the results really.
Right.
You got to have something to really attract the hams.
Yeah.
Would be the scouts, and I found that out at Joda, and but we did have some good results there with getting the Shreveport Amateur Radio Association involved.
Good.
And so I'd like to see Mentor Fest press on. I know that's shortly after Ken or myself take office in should be April timeframe, and Joda's Mentor Fest is that month. But I think that's doable because not only was Jay steering the wheels with Mentor Fest, I think it was Steve Codwell, if I remember right. I apologize, I don't know Steve's call sign. But I want to get in touch with Steve and let's get Mentor Fest powered up for again this April. So look forward to that. I think we need a lot more hands-on teaching things. Like a lot of people are facing the issue, even though we have crimp-on solder connectors these days, people want to know how to solder a PL259. So those are doable things, and we shouldn't have to watch a YouTube video. And when you Google things, I mean, you can find the answers, but a lot of times it takes some hands-on personal experience. Like the first thing on soldering I'd like to mention is eye protection. We don't want to get solder flicks in our eyes, especially if you're training a youngster how to do it. We don't need them to ruin their eyes. But any rate, I'm going to pass it to Ken and see what he has to say on the subject.
One quick thing. While you were talking, someone came in the chat and asked about Mentor Fest. So that was going to be another question. So we'll just lump those two together.
Okay.
So yeah,
in
you
fact,
can talk about.
I thought I'd mention Mentor Fest right
Good.
off.
Okay, great.
I was talking to Bill, AC5BC.
He said, yeah, you guys,
AC5BC.
the contestants on here can't see the live chat. I can see the live chat. It's Bill Caldwell, AC5BC is who you were referring to, Steve. So yeah, go ahead.
I was talking to Bill before the meeting, actually, a day or so ago, about a number of things, and of course Mentor Fest came up, and he's been involved in the education areas, and was concerned about whether we would or would not continue Mentor Fest. But he's not the only one that I've talked to since being putting myself in the ring, and I think it was let me see my notes here. Army down in Nacogdoches made a comment as well. But in talking to Bill, he has some good ideas, I think, about extending Mentor Fest and maybe making it available in such a way that it can be portable, moving it around parts of the section. The section is pretty large, and for somebody to travel to, even though Dallas-Fort Worth's kind of in the center, it's still a haul for a number of people. So maybe working with Bill, we can come up with some way to make some of Mentor Fest portable, and work with other clubs to do that. I'd like to see more club participation in Mentorfest,
Mm-hmm.
and take some ownership and do some things. I know the club I'm in, Lake Amateur Radio Club, participated in it. We had at least one, maybe two people that went and made presentations, and that has been a big asset. But as far as youth is concerned, as the experience I had as South Texas affiliated club coordinator, there were a number of ways that I was involved with clubs and bringing youth into their membership, and not all the solutions that we worked on work all the time, because the way you work with youth is somewhat different depending on the area that you're in and the age of the youth, and so you need to find a way to do that. Usually there's one or two people, individuals in the club that have that mentality of working with youth, and maybe keying off of that. But when the club has a focus on youth and the membership and bringing tools and assets to the youth so that they can participate, it usually helps quite a bit. If you're looking for youth, we need to find ways to take ham radio and the many facets of ham radio to them, and there's a number of ways to do that. STEM is one in the schools today. Teachers, ARRL has the teacher sessions every year, and that's been good. In fact, talking with Army, he said that they've been successful in a number of high schools in Nacogdoches area, and one of the teachers is he thinks is going to make it to the teacher experience in Newington this year. So youth nets, even some of the YL participation sometimes helps bring youth. Our club went to Makerfest in Denton County this year, and there was a mom and a son that came up, and some became real interested. His name's David. I can't remember his call sign, but I've worked with him a couple of times. And at the Christmas party, he was asking questions like, how do you hear the CW on a receiver? And so I told him about the beat frequency oscillator, BFO, and you could see his eyes light up, because this youngster really is intelligent and able a quick learner. So he picked it up real quick. And so that's been my experience with youngsters of that age. So my focus as North Texas Session Manager will be to build on the past experiences I've had and try to multiply those experiences in other clubs by making contact with the clubs and emphasizing things like the wireless technologies we have. Arden is an interesting thing that a lot of the youth are really interested in, if they're interested in PCs and networking and gaming and video and things of that nature. But we just want to go where the kids are and find them and give them a youth environment that they can grow and experience and learn.
Mm-hmm. Okay. All right. Well, thank you very much. That's a very well-rounded answer, I think. Yeah, and you're right about the Arden, and even like the digital voice, like DMR, and D-Star,
DMR.
And all these,
David just picked up on DMR right away.
Yeah,
he was really using that.
Okay, the next question comes again from Jim in Mansfield. How do you feel about the rising noise floor and intrusion by commercial entities on our bands, and how do you feel it can be improved? And that's basically, I think that's a much larger issue inside of metroplexes like Dallas-Fort Worth or Houston area, Austin area, than it is on outlying areas. But obviously that's, we used to do, me and some of my friends used to do quite a bit of analog talking on 900 megahertz in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, and we kind of stopped that because the noise floor was so high. It kind of got to where it wasn't even worth it anymore. A lot of us have moved to 220. So anyway, Steve, we'll go back to you, and if you don't mind, take it away.
Okay, cool. Noise floor, yeah. If your neighbor's got a plasma TV,
Yeah.
you're wanting to work rare DX and low signal strength, and because of homeowners association, you don't have a multi dB gain antenna, it can be a challenge. But so first off, I would like to say you got to clean your own house first. You got to get rid of all your wall warts or switching transformers that are causing noise within your own place. I mean, if you've got a plasma TV in your own house or man cave, or let alone your Hamshack, you're kind of setting yourself up for a lot of hardship on the front end there. So, and if you're purchasing plasma TVs, you're pretty much endorsing the manufacturer and increasing the problem. So, but there are avenues. ARRL did do a lot of work and has done a lot of work in this area. No, they haven't totally solved the problem. It's an ever-growing thing.
Mm-hmm.
This is like chopping one head off and 3 more heads pop up type thing. So we've got to be diligent and work the issues and report the problems to the agencies that are responsible for those areas, whether it be FCC or the power line company. If you got a problem on a power pole and you've proved it, then report it to the power company. And if they're too lazy to get out there and work the problem, go up the chain of command, contact somebody within the ARRL, within your section, within your division, and like I said, work the chain of command. It takes effort. It's not a pick up the phone call, pick up the telephone, or drop an email and you're done with it. You've got to be persistent. This is one of the things that the squeaky wheel analogy works.
Mm-hmm.
The squeaky wheel is going to be the one that gets the oil. So, what else did I want to say on that topic? The noise floor. Yes, I understand. Not everybody can move from, a suburb out to a 57-acre plot of land like I did and decrease the noise floor. But work the problem within your household.
Mm-hmm.
I pretty much solved that by moving to a big plot of land surrounded by cows and cotton. And but I also brought electricity, and I brought multiple households with me. So of course I have control, because one's my mom's place and one's my mother-in-law's place, and the other one's my wife and I's house. So when we introduce my mom wants to do touch lamps. No, sorry, Mom, we're not doing touch lamps. Okay, first off, it's going to cause you problems, because I'm going to key up on one band one of these days, and you're going to be asleep, and I'm going to wake you up because the lights are going to start blinking in your house. You're not going to like that. So we discuss the issue and show why it's better not to go that route. So that's one way to solve the problem. A lot of times, we as ham radio operators are great communicators, but a lot of times we're not great at communicating. So reach out, discuss the issue, talk the issue, be friendly about the issue, and remember, you get more bees with honey than you do with nasty stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And what else did I want to talk about? We're on noise floor topic.
Yeah.
Repeaters can be an issue in a densely populated area. Well, we got to use technology. We got to be resource smart. We got to be techno smart, or get somebody that can help us find a better band pass filter, or a filter to filter out the paging in the hospital. The hospital invites us to install a repeater. It's a great location. So we could get all that work done and that money invested in it from donors and even within the treasury of the club. But then we find out the paging service in the hospital is causing us issues. Well, there's filters for that. So work the issue. I'd like to see within our section and beyond more technical field appointments and to help work these problems. And the young man that I had contact me that had a career in the Army, he was basically an RFI engineer was his specialty. And he's the one that asked me about the OO program, the Official Observer program. And I got him that information, and I told him, I said I wanted to stay in touch because somebody knowledgeable like that as a field appointee, I think would be a great asset to everybody else in North Texas. That's one of the reasons I want to run. I would like your votes. I've never been a field appointee. I've never been assigned as an Aries position or an EC or any of that stuff. And I think I can do that. I can't do it alone. I'm going to have members out there that want to step up to the plate, be a committee chairperson like you would in a club type thing. And with the clubs and field appointees, we can solve a lot of these issues. I really believe it. Might not take a year, might not take 2 years. I think it's a good and bad thing that section managers hold the realms for only 2 years now. I think in some respects that's a bad thing because they don't have a lot of time to get the work done. But then on the second thought, that's a good thing because you're not getting somebody stuck in Congress forever and you can't get anything done. Mm-hmm. So that's my analogy, and hopefully I sound like I'm going to help you all solve your problems. With that, I think I'm going to not just run my mouth and pass it to Ken.
Go ahead, Ken. Thank you.
Well, I heard what Steve has said, but there's noise of all types that been ever increasing over the years, even to the point that it's taken many years, over a decade almost, to get the FCC to even collect some data on it. Mm-hmm. So this is something that is impacting our communications in a number of ways. There are different types of ways that these the noises occur and how they impact us. There's, of course, just the raising noise floor, which we saw from BPL. Mm-hmm. And some of the experience in BPL may be useful to us in solving some of these others, by the way. There's also in-band spurious interference on repeaters. There's, well, you can go on and on.
Sure.
But all of these are man-made.
Mm-hmm.
So that means that there's come to a solution that's going to be something man-made's going to have to fix. Mm-hmm. And so we did find in the BPL situation that if we worked diligently and showed our technical prowess, even working with ARRL through Ed Hare, I said Bill, Ed Hare, ARRL became pretty much the center point of technology and go-to person for where's the interference coming from. Mm-hmm. And so that's kind of thing that I think can be used even in the local case where we've got spurious interference on repeaters and things of that nature. I even read an article where in the UK a couple of years ago they had similar kinds of problems, and so the radio operators, not only ham radio operators, but other operators that were impacted by the interference, got together and as a group, put a web page together even, got people made people aware of the problem, and took it to, I think it's Ofcom or something like that in the UK. But those kinds of approaches can be used to improve the situation, because it is something that is man-made and is something that we can fix if we use our own knowledge and in a consistent way, and then if it's nationally known, take it to a national body. ARRL is us, and we put the people there that we feel have the knowledge and the capabilities, so let's use it. Sometimes it's necessary even to go and use the force of the government. And the FCC has taken that case. If you write the FCC about a power line noise problem, I guarantee you, you're going the people in that power company are going to hear from the FCC within a matter of time, if you do it in a way that the FCC sees that you have the right technical information. So as a section manager, I make sure that you folks in the field have the right resources. If you need technical assistance, and like Jason's saying, knowledge of who those people are is important, whether it's in the section or in some other section or some other state. There's no reason that we just have to stay within our own to get those resources. So as a section manager, then we make that available. Know about it, make it available.
Okay.
Can I come back to that
Can
topic?
Yeah, for a short minute. Go ahead.
I'd appreciate it. We need to also find out how we can document and look at the band noise. Not only, say our S meter is this. Use SDR receiver technology like a Raspberry Pi and take a photograph, take a snapshot of your computer screen showing what that band looks like. And if you look up K9YC, I think it is Jim Brown, he has a pretty detailed discussion on identifying noise sources. Okay. And he shows you how to see the signal and see that it's a switching power supply. And again, if you're not using a lot of toroids and ferrites in your Hamshack, on your cables, not just RF cables, power cables as well, then you're not eliminating all the noise in your house first. So I know there's noise coming from outside too, but identifying it and documenting it will help when you up-channel this information on what you got. Now you have a believable case, and you can get more power behind your problem solving. Jason, I'm going to pass it back to you.
Okay, thanks. Yeah, there's some good information there. So I think it's something we can probably all work towards helping to resolve in our specific areas. So one of the last questions we have is, maybe we should have started with this one, but it wasn't on the board right then. So for those of us new to ham radio, and this comes from Heidi, KG5ZAU, for those of us new to ham radio, what exactly does a section manager do, and how do you see yourself improving the position if you're elected to it? So, Steve, since you took a extra stab at that last question, Ken, we'll go to you first this time.
Okay, very good. Well, the section manager is basically a project coordinator, administrator, and personnel type position. If you boil it down into several organizational buzzwords, we work to facilitate the hobby in the various areas of our section, and that includes the club coordination and the various aspects. There are 7 different positions that are required appointees in the section that the ARRL requires. There's the emergency coordination for ARES. And then there's the national traffic system. We haven't talked a lot about that today, but there is a person that is responsible for making sure that traffic is passed from point A to point B through the local nets and then the national and sectional nets. There's also affiliated club coordinators. You've heard me talk about that. There's the public information office. So there's a public information officer that is a spokesperson to public media and the like. Jim, Steve mentioned the official observers. That's being modified, but we have had an official observer position in the section offices. And of course, there's a technical coordinator, which we have a technical coordinator assigned in North Texas, and these people can have other people under them. The last one is the government liaison.
Mm-hmm.
So those are the 7 positions that are basically managed by the section manager. The section manager is the representative of our organization, ARRL. So the policies and procedures that ARRL board decide on, then that's propagated down through the section to the clubs and the club officials. So in my case, then, I would look at this structure that they require, and then, of course, look at the clubs and say, do we want to modify that, meeting what they say as the policies that we have to have, but then we can have the liberty to meet the needs of the clubs, and would do that. So meeting with the clubs is important. Getting to know what's happening at the local level is important.
Mm-hmm.
And then you coordinate that with what's going on in ARRL. So I would make myself available, and I am. I'm looking for your vote.
Okay. Thank you. That's a great answer. You know, I hadn't actually thought of it myself, how I would define that. So that's a great answer, Ken. All right, Steve, over to you. Same question.
Okay, Heidi, thank you very much for your question. I really appreciate it. And we're basically assigned with delegating other people to do certain jobs within the section. But to me, what's it go beyond those 7 delegates that we have in our section? That's why I want to step up to the plate. I want this to be more. What would my position be? My position is your voice directly to the ARRL. What do you need? What do you want? What do you want the ARRL, as you, the member, to do for you? Better or less or more? What do you want? Whether it be something different article in QST, different ARRL, races structure. What about assistance in setting up ham radio clubs in high schools? Can we do that? Let's identify some of the issues to make things better for all of us, newcomers and old alike. That's basically where I'm coming from. Like I said, I haven't been a member of the ARRL structure other than being a member. And I want to step up the plate. There's a lot of things that we learn. You know, when you're a member of a ham radio club and you step up the plate and you become a president of the club or secretary or treasurer, you find that, wow, there's a lot that's going on. You get more involved and you start greasing the wheels, and the wheels start turning a lot better. And if you do it that way, then you find that the members want you to be a president the next year, and the next year, and the next year. Or maybe not, okay? So that kind of tells you how well you're doing the job, or maybe not doing the job. So that's the direction I'm coming from, Heidi. Thank you very much for your question. A lot of the league structure is in the front of QST. You want to know more about it than what's just right there in QST. It's easy to overlook the section manager list in QST, but drop me an email, kg5vk@arrl.net, or give me a call, 318-470-9806. Let me know what's on your mind. I'd love to hear from y'all. Jason, it's back to you.
Okay, thank you for that. Ken, if you don't mind, go ahead and share your contact info also.
Sure. KD2KW at ARRL.net, and 972-704-3855 is my home number. I've already been receiving a number of calls from members and folks in the organization. I've made some calls myself, but feel free to call me any reasonable time of the day or evening. And I can also use text on my cell phone, 713-301-1102. And I'm looking forward to hearing from you.
Great. Okay. This is the last question. We had a couple of new questions come in just now, and they're kind of redundant to what we've already talked about. They're almost the same thing, a little bit off, but not much. So I think the last one, let's see, and we might have touched on this a little bit earlier, but can a section manager approach schools to encourage them to start and maintain a radio club? If so, how would you approach this? This kind of goes back to the whole getting youth involved, but specifically, I know I'm only aware of one school in this area, and it's a little bit west of here, that has their own high school ham radio club. Now, there's probably a few more out there I'm not aware of, but because I'm kind of old. So, so I'm not really involved in high school stuff anymore. But, how would you, is that something that is doable by section manager? And if so, how would you approach it? So, Ken, we'll go back to you.
Okay, first off, I certainly support section manager doing what's needed when the time comes. But most often, not necessarily every time, but most often, a local person that knows somebody within an organization is the best contact. And now that person with a section manager maybe is an appropriate approach. I certainly want to make, as section manager, myself available in cases like that. STEM programs are led usually by one or two people, teachers. And so the STEM program is a good one for an introduction to a school. One or two hams in a school is a good start, but they usually need a teacher,
right,
or a grown person. So I would encourage the people in the clubs to find and make contact. Usually it's a parent that does that. So, your parents that have youngsters that are interested is usually the path that get you into the school.
Okay.
And so that's just from my experience.
Okay. Good. Yeah, good answer. Steve, same question.
Yeah, I have to agree with Ken. Section manager can't reach out to all 68 counties that we have in North Texas. Yeah, there's 68 counties in North Texas. We have over 4,400 plus ARRL members in our section. That's a lot of people to reach out and talk to and coordinate for a local school or something like that. So it is best to work with in your county and to coordinate and spearhead and get the local club behind it. Maybe y'all can, as simple as donating or as individuals, donate one of your old ARRL handbooks or antenna handbook.
Yeah.
Things like that to the local school library, and not even just the schools, to your local community library. Things like that. Those are the things that, I remember when we started our ham radio club in Manchester, Missouri, Chesterfield, Missouri area of St. Louis, Ward Silver and myself and a few of the other guys, we did that with the support of a teacher. And that was Craig Larson back then, and he was our math teacher. And we found a little cubby hole that we could set up an amateur radio station, and we just had a blast with that. And that's how it starts. Start small, start local, and build from there. You need support. I'm sure Ken, I will support you in any way we can. If we can get you literature, products to help you, just give us a jingle.
Okay, great.
Back to you, Jason.
Some really good questions today. Some really good answers from the both of you. I want to thank the both of you for taking time to come here. It's about 21 minutes after the hour 11. We've been going for about an hour and 15 minutes or so. My plan was to try to cut this off roughly about 11:30. We'll see how it goes. So, if you'd like to make like closing arguments, as it were, you want to do like a closing argument statement, I'll let each of you have an opportunity to do that. And then we'll shut it down. So once again, thank you both for being here. I know it was a drive for both of you. Steve, I don't guess it was too bad for you since you didn't mind going to Mansfield, but even though you came from the farthest way away. But I'm really excited. I think this is the first time anything like this has been done in this section. And quite frankly, on this YouTube series, I'd like the opportunity to do something in other sections of Texas also. So anybody with the ARRL out there wants to reach out to me, hit me up on one of the comments down here, or hit me up on QRZ. I'm good there too. So we'll go to Ken. 3-4 minutes closing arguments, as it were, and then we'll shut it down after we talk to Steve. Thanks.
Well, thank you, Jason, for having us. It's been an exciting time, really. I've enjoyed the questions. I had given some forethought to some of them, and I've put out some publications on the youth and that sort of thing. So these have questions that I've been thinking about and have already developed positions on. I'd like to let people look again at the strengths that I offer to the position, and from the experience I have, the knowledge I have of people in ARRL and have worked with in the past. And I believe that will be a big asset to get section manager off and running, and as soon as the appointment is made. Also, I want to make a point that I will be serving all forms of the hobby across many modes, many types of activities, contesting as well as just plain operating, rag chewing, elmering, and so we can't just take the few things we talked about today and say that that's what section manager duties are, because it goes well beyond that.
Oh, yeah.
But these are the interests that people have, and so we've hopefully answered those today for you. My experience is in contesting is something that you can go and look at the records that I have individually, and where I participated with contest groups. I've joined contest groups in North Texas now that I live up there. The Dallas-Fort Worth group, Lone Star, Texas DXC Society, and the like. And I've given presentations, and I make myself available to the clubs to give presentations, not just because of the section manager, but in building my station, I put together a presentation on grounding, and that's something that I partnered with Ken, AC5EZ, and putting together, and it went well in our club, and I've given presentations at Hamcom, and we'll do that again if needed. My focus is going to be building stronger clubs through subjects that the clubs need, directed by the clubs. So rather than me just trying to say, well, this is the new program, come jump on it, I'd like to see the clubs say, we need this, and then we develop that together. So that's one of the areas that I think I can build as a strength from my experience. And then a recognition of the clubs. While I was